Hello, dear friends. Welcome to my drama summary channel. Today's episode is very emotional, so please subscribe to the channel now, as I need to reach 1,000 subscribers to continue making the summaries. Otherwise, unfortunately, I will have to stop. Thank you very much, and let's get to the episode. Jan is a 30-year-old girl who has a perfect life. She works in the marketing department of a perfume company and has been in a 4-year relationship with her boyfriend, Seelan. She leaves work to meet him at the airport, but on the way, she stops at a store to buy some heels to look more presentable. However, he informed her at the last minute that he couldn't travel while she was on the phone. We meet a boy who returned to study abroad and, coincidentally, took Jin's lipstick. He tried to wait to return it to her, but she had to leave with the driver and couldn't hold back the tears because of the conversation her boyfriend had with her. She was also disappointed, as it wasn't the first time. She didn't feel like going home and, therefore, took refuge in a store to eat noodles. Coincidentally, W was passing by and approached her. A call interrupted them. The girl's father was trying to find out where she was. She had to lie and say she was on a date with her boyfriend. When she returned home, she put on makeup to look like she had been with him, but her boyfriend had already contacted the family. The father thought his daughter was with someone else he liked. He liked Celine too much because he is a successful lawyer and didn't care that his daughter was unhappy. The boyfriend sent a bouquet of flowers as an apology, not knowing his girlfriend was allergic. The next day, Ken rushed to work but got into an accident with Musin's car, a friend of Juan. She didn't have time to solve the problem, so she just left her contact card when she left. Juan appeared and smiled upon recognizing the girl's name. Later, Musin went out with his friends because he had organized a surprise for his girlfriend, proposing marriage, although they had only been dating for a few months. The girl rejected him, and he started drinking in embarrassment. Jan appeared to resolve the car accident issue, but ended up drinking with him. Musin and she had a competition and drank. The next morning, Jean woke up in a hotel and was scared to see her clothes on the floor, but as she thought she would never see one again, it just remained an embarrassing situation. However, what she didn't realize was that one was actually her half-brother, the son of her stepmother. Mrs. Lon married Jin's father, and their children were childhood friends. Juan went to study abroad, and they never saw each other again. She was nervous when she found him in her house and tried to stop him from telling what had happened the previous day. After dinner, they went to a park, and she wanted to know what happened at the hotel. She should be responsible for her actions, but he clarified that nothing inappropriate had happened. Then, he accompanied her home. This was seen by Celine, who searched for his girlfriend to apologize. In the car, she noticed a bouquet of roses, and the boy didn't realize she was allergic. Jean didn't express it either, but asked her not to send him flowers again. Juan returned to his apartment, where he lives with his friend Musin. He finds his mother tidying up the room and asks about his half-sister's relationship, discovering that the couple will get married soon. Upon hearing this, Juan became sad because he apparently has feelings for her. Meanwhile, Jean went to a restaurant with her boyfriend, and this guy didn't even let her choose the dish she wanted to eat, which made her feel very bad. Moreover, he is a self-centered man and announced that he got a promotion at work, asking Jean to prepare for a ceremony the next day. Her expression showed that she didn't want to accompany him, but she accepted anyway, perhaps for good luck. However, Jin's work became complicated and she couldn't go with Celine. She stayed doing extra hours and started dancing while listening to music. Juan went to see her and smiled, watching her so happy. He waited for her to finish her work. When they were done, Jin's colleague appeared. The siblings became nervous, and Juan had to hide. Jean and her colleague left the office, but Jean ran back before her colleague could react. Joking with Juan, she said he looked like he had fainted. She was scared to see him like that, but when she realized it was a lie, she started chasing him to give him a lesson. Later, she received a call from her boyfriend, who complained because her absence embarrassed him in front of his colleagues. Celine always blamed Jean for everything and didn't understand that she was also disappointed. On Jin's birthday, Juan helped her with work, but because of this, he had to stay late finishing his own tasks. He works in a video game company and is responsible for important projects. The next day, Jean invited him to lunch as a thank you for his help. During lunch, they ran into Celine, and her boyfriend joined them. He offered to pay the bill, and Juan took the opportunity to order very expensive dishes, in a way trying to provoke Celine, who didn't like it. Additionally, the reason for the meeting was that Celine wanted to ask his girlfriend to quit her job and move to another city with him. Celine didn't care about Jin's opinion and just tried to force her to make that decision. Juan realized this wasn't what Jean wanted. Later, Jean attended a party of a former classmate who had married a wealthy man. However, she discovered that her friend's life wasn't happy, and the woman even had scars. To make matters worse, Jean realized that her friend's husband was having an affair, but she didn't know what to do. So, she called her boyfriend, asking for his opinion. To her surprise, Celine mentioned that all men were like that, leaving her speechless. Juan, noticing that she was upset, took her out to eat. He knew her very well and ordered the dishes she wanted, but could never get when she was with Celine. For a moment, they had a lot of fun. However, when she got back home, she was surprised by a visit from her boyfriend. He invited her to the cinema, but emphasized that she should dress formally. Celine is very attentive to his girlfriend's family and brought several gifts. However, Jin's brother, Ian, received a pair of sneakers that didn't fit, showing that Celine was only doing this out of formality. Anyway, Jean went to the cinema, but it turned into a marriage proposal. Celine hadn't even invited Jin's family and only wanted to impress his colleagues. Jean was very surprised, and after some thought, she rejected him immediately. She ran away from the venue and sought refuge at her best friend Jiran's house. Jin's relationship with Celine was over, and she decided to delete their messages. Even so, Celine still wanted to save what was left of the relationship, but not in a good way. He went to her workplace and grabbed her wrist to force her to leave with him, causing her phone to fall and break. Juan saw the scene and stepped in to defend her. He also lent her his phone so she could call a taxi. Later, Jean was meeting with a client, but Juan managed to find her. He bought her a new phone, even personalizing it with a caricature of himself. He waited for her to finish work, and then the two went out to eat together. On the other hand, we meet Xiaoman, a girl in love with Juan, who was his student abroad. Xiaoman practically invaded Juan's apartment and managed to stay there for a few days. Jean collaborated with a celebrity at work, but found him talking to his girlfriend in a private room. Jean helped hide the girlfriend and left the place with the celebrity, which caused a scandal as people thought they were in a relationship. Reporters kept targeting Jean, but she had her boss's support. However, a streamer accused her of trying to take advantage of the celebrity, which led fans to go after Jean. For a moment, she managed to escape with her friend's help, but in the parking lot, she ran into Celine. He confronted her, asking if she had something going on with the celebrity, but Jean made it clear that their relationship was over and that he shouldn't care. At that moment, reporters appeared, but Juan helped Jean escape. Meanwhile, Jiran had disappeared and Chun, Juan's boss, tried to locate her. She ignored him, so Juan accompanied her. On the way, Jiran fell asleep, and Juan covered her with his coat, admiring her beauty. When she woke up, they watched the sun's wager and made a wish. However, Celine sent a letter to Jin's company to stir up rumors involving the celebrity. Jin's boss was upset, but her superiors showed support, trusting her character. Due to the incident, Jean was transferred to another department, a live broadcasting area with no staff, meaning Jean would work alone. She tried to ask Celine to withdraw the letter, but he refused. As a result, Jean ended the relationship with him permanently. Elsewhere, Jean went to Juan's apartment but found Xiaoman there. It was then they discovered that Xiaoman was the streamer who attacked Jean on social media. Xiaoman revealed that someone paid her to do it, but she didn't know who it was. The girl managed to escape, but Jean suspects who might be behind it. Her only rivals are Iman and the vice president, though there is no evidence to incriminate them. Iman got a promotion using underhanded tricks, and Jean found out about it through Juan. However, Juan only has eyes for his little sister. When Jean was transferred to another area, Juan rushed to find her. He helped her organize her new workspace. When they left the company, it was raining. Juan ran to buy 2 umbrellas, but wanting to be closer to Jean, he only got one. For a moment, they grew closer and enjoyed each other's company. Jean kept the umbrella as a treasured keepsake. On the other hand, Xiaoman did a live stream to admit her mistake regarding Jean. Jean was worried that Xiaoman might reveal her identity to the public and endanger herself, so she rushed to stop her. Juan also stepped in to help and took Jean out for a meal. Over time, they started to rebuild their friendship. Jin's colleagues, who always supported her, decided to transfer to the same area as her to work together again. Meanwhile, Jiran was waiting for the elevator when some men began criticizing her clothes, insinuating that, as a woman, she should wear shorter attire. Jiran was ready to defend herself, but Chen stepped in to help. He took the opportunity to ask for her number, but the elevator's poor signal prevented her from entering the code. Elsewhere, Jean met her partner at an event because her colleague wanted to resign to care for her family. Jean wanted to address the partner's husband's infidelity, but couldn't. As she left the restaurant, Jean encountered the unfaithful husband and his mistress. Furious, Jean pretended to be his wife and demanded the car keys. She managed to take the woman's belongings, but was about to be caught. Fortunately, one appeared to distract them, giving Jean time to escape. Later, Jean and Juan watched the mistress slap the unfaithful husband, both satisfied with their success. Juan then took Jean to a secret place, an abandoned park. Using his phone's flashlight, he lit up the area, making it more romantic. When Jean got home, her father mentioned he planned to buy a house for her and Celine, still thinking they were together. Jin's mother, sensing something was wrong, asked about her daughter's relationship. Upon learning Jean had broken up with Celine, her mother was understanding and supportive. Taking the opportunity, her mother asked what type of girl Jean thought would be ideal for Juan. Jean replied that one should be with someone his own age. This response left Jean deep in thought, as there was a 7-year age gap between them. Because of this, she began to think it might be best to stay away from him. Juan went to have dinner at the girl's house, and she acted as if she were truly his sister. He played along and later bought drinks for Jean and her colleagues, leaving a note specifying that he was just a good brother. At night, Muzin invited Iman out, and she brought other friends to stay close to Juan. Jean felt jealous when she saw a photo of them together. However, Juan didn't stay home during that meeting and went out to look for her. She also looked for him at his house, but in the end, they only crossed paths. Juan found out that Jean had tried to see him and was about to throw away the umbrella they shared, but he changed his mind when he remembered its sentimental value. He clarified that he had nothing with Iman and was only helping his friend Muzin. Then the two went to see a movie. Later, Jean discovered Iman's interest in Juan. During a meeting with Iman and other employees, Jean appeared at the same restaurant. Seeing that Iman was pursuing him, Jean grabbed Juan's hand under the table. This surprised him, but he wasn't willing to let her go. After a while, Jean became nervous and ran back home. The company where Jean works was looking for candidates for a streamer position, and Iman asked Juan to convince Jean to give her the job. Juan agreed to help, but Jean refused to give Iman any special treatment. Nevertheless, Iman decided to attend the interview on her own. One of the candidates was Sanyu, the girl whose date Jean had ruined by exposing her colleague's unfaithful husband. Jean thanked Sonyu for helping reveal the truth about the deceitful man and assured her there was no grudge, regardless of the hiring outcome. At night, Jean discovered that one had a cold, so she decided to visit him. However, upon arriving, she realized one had faked his illness just to see her since she had been distant. Meanwhile, Jin's mother, worried about her daughter being single, arranged a blind date with an older man. One, despite acting like a brother, truly wanted Jean to follow her own feelings. The blind date didn't please Jean, and she started realizing her feelings for Juan. While they were alone in the apartment, Juan's stepmother showed up unexpectedly, and Jean had to hide. From the closet, she overheard the stepmother lamenting that Juan didn't seem happy. This made Jean emotional, and she started crying. Juan found her in the closet and comforted her, encouraging her to express her feelings. He also mentioned that she could just be herself when they were together. At that moment, Juan confessed his feelings for Jean. Moved, she agreed to start a relationship with him, but they decided to keep it a secret. The next day, as Jean was preparing to go to work, Juan called her, saying he was just a few meters away and would pick her up. Jean went back inside to pretend she was just leaving at that moment, but she felt embarrassed knowing he had already seen her in the car. Later, Jean had an interaction with Jiran but was forced to leave due to a misunderstanding. This left Jiran confused and furious since Jean didn't give her any explanation. To get revenge, she prepared a perfume made with bird droppings, which caused Chen's office to smell bad. He received another call from the garden but left the person talking alone, which annoyed her a lot. In fact, Chen was hiding a secret. He has a young son. Meanwhile, Een was waiting for her boyfriend to finish work so they could go out. Since he was doing overtime, she wanted to keep him company, but Muzin appeared. Een had to hide, and it was her turn to be locked in. The next day, Een needed to meet an important client, accompanied by the vice president, but Juan noticed this. He also had an important meeting with his team to present a video game proposal. The client was pleased but intended to buy the idea, which would push Juan's team out of the market, causing huge losses. Juan refused the offer and rushed to find Een. During the meeting, the client crossed the line with Een, and the vice president, known for being opportunistic, did nothing. Juan infiltrated the meeting and defended her. Een didn't stay quiet either and threw a drink at the client, which led to his decision not to work with the company. Yin's boss was furious, but Jean had already prepared another proposal. Meanwhile, Chen tried to convince the client to give them another chance, using his influence to persuade him. Juan saw the scene and, to preserve his boss's dignity, asked the client for a deadline to demonstrate the team's potential. The client agreed, but the video game design would require a lot of resources. Chen, short on money, had to take loans to cover expenses, but continued to support his team as a true leader. At night, Een and her boyfriend had plans, but her father showed up at the company and forced her to return home. Once again, he insisted that she marry Celine soon. Meanwhile, Xiaoman was chosen as the company's new streamer, but her performance was unsatisfactory, leading to poor sales. She asked Bo, a very popular influencer who keeps his identity secret from his family, for help. He refused to help her, but after some persistence, Xiaoman's team managed to improve the game. The client was impressed with the new proposal and agreed to pay a fair price. Boss Chen rewarded his team for their effort and organized a trip for everyone. Iman noticed changes in Jin's behavior and mentioned to Jbo that she might have a new partner. Jbo, unaware of Jin's breakup with Celine, thought she was cheating on him. Juan planned a trip with Jean and rented a trailer so they could be alone. Jean was excited but invited Jiran to join her and lied to her family, saying it was a company trip. Jbo found out about the lie and also discovered the lacy pajamas she bought to surprise Juan. Upset, Jbo vented his anger to brother Juan, revealing that Een had broken up with Celine a long time ago. He also asked if Juan trusted Yin's decisions. Jbo agreed to help Ian, not realizing that Juan was her new boyfriend. Anyway, the two went out for a walk, but their friends believed they were just siblings, which made them quite uncomfortable. At night, the two sneaked back home. At that moment, Jean regretted not bringing the lace pajamas, as she wanted to have an intimate moment. However, they were interrupted, and she ended up getting drunk. Juan took her home, and when he returned, he found Jean sleeping. He just pulled her close. Later, they met during a trip with Chen. Jean started to develop feelings for him and, while drunk, suggested having an affair. However, they were interrupted by a phone call. Chen left Jean with a fever because he needed to take care of his son but didn't give her any explanation. Jean went home very early, and as she was saying goodbye to her boyfriend, her brother Jbo caught her. He went straight to hit Juan, but Jean stopped him. Jbo couldn't understand how they could be together, as they were considered family. Jean asked him to keep it a secret, but Jbo couldn't hold back. During dinner, when Juan was mentioned, Jbo seemed irritated. Mrs. Lawn noticed something strange and asked her son if he had argued with his brother. He lied, saying they had fought over sports. Still, Jbo couldn't accept their relationship and tried to prevent them from meeting after work. Meanwhile, Xiaoman continued struggling with sales. Since Jbo wasn't helping her, she approached Juan as an intermediary. Juan spoke with Jbo, trying to convince him to help, especially since his sister was struggling in the company. Jbo agreed but imposed a condition. Juan had to end his relationship with Jean. With no alternatives, they made a deal. On the day of the live stream, Jean distracted her boyfriend so Jbo could pretend to be Xiaoman's assistant. When his identity was exposed, Jean discovered her brother was a live streamer. Instead of criticizing him, she supported his talent. This made Jbo accept Juan's relationship with Jean. The live stream was a success, and Yin's superior was proud of her work. As a result, Yin was tasked with negotiating with a new client, a video game company. The other party agreed to Yin's proposal and asked to sign the contract immediately. Although it seemed strange, Yin rushed to finalize the deal. During this process, she met Chen's son but didn't know it was his child. Juan, upon seeing the boy, pretended not to recognize him since Yin was with him. This led Yin to think that Juan had a child. Juan sent a message to Yin saying he had a surprise for Valentine's Day. Yin misunderstood the situation, and when she saw the boy, she became even more confused. Juan clarified everything, but Jiran discovered the truth and decided to test their relationship. After some time, Chen declared his love for Jean in a public square, but she exposed his lies and left him in an embarrassing situation. At the same time, Juan's mother saw Jean entering his apartment and started suspecting their relationship. Yin's father also had his doubts and contacted Celine, asking her to marry Jean soon. Jean didn't reveal anything about the breakup with Celine and agreed to fulfill the contract with the video game company. However, the other party announced they had never agreed to collaborate and demanded compensation. Yin discovered the man she had negotiated with earlier was just a former employee of the company. Her boss was furious with all the chaos caused. On the same day, it was Yin's father's birthday, and few presents had been prepared. Everyone was surprised to see Celine at the house. Yin's father introduced the young man as his future son-in-law, suggesting they would marry in a year. Jean felt very embarrassed and talked to him, explaining she didn't want to cause any confusion. Meanwhile, Mrs. Lawn asked her son if he had a girlfriend. Juan realized she was suspicious and said only that there was someone he liked but couldn't reveal yet. He asked her to trust him. Jean, on the other hand, faced the threat of a potential lawsuit from the video game company. This news reached Celine, who went to the company to represent them. Her colleagues didn't stop spreading rumors about her possible return. Xiaoman immediately warned Juan about what was happening. After work, Celine offered to take care of the house, but Yin refused. She waited for her boyfriend, and when Juan got off work, he noticed that she had fallen asleep waiting for him. He sat beside her until she woke up. Celine observed this and became even more determined not to give up. Ian told her boyfriend that she was now working with Celine, but made it clear that she would avoid any contact outside the company. One fully trusted their relationship and laughed at her for being so nervous, as usual. The two were set to work together, but Celine approached Ian and offered her a ride. Obviously, Ian rejected the offer and preferred to go with her boyfriend. However, Celine went alone and provoked Juan with her malicious words, making it clear that he was just a child who couldn't help Ian with her problems. Later, Celine and Jean met with the lawyers from the video game company. Jean proposed reducing the compensation amount, but Celine didn't agree. Ian had already made plans with her boyfriend, but Celine delayed her with the excuse of working on the case. Juan went out to get food and ran into Celine, who provoked him again. This time, she told Juan that she would get Ian back. Juan was furious, but managed to avoid hitting her. Afterward, Juan sought out Ian. Celine realized that her actions had hurt Juan and returned home. Ian couldn't contact him and went to his apartment, where she found him locked up. She was moved to discover that her boyfriend was searching for information about the lawsuit. She revealed in front of Musin that she was dating Juan. Musin initially thought it was a joke, but seeing how close they were, decided to sleep at a hotel. The video game company agreed to a settlement with Jin's company. Celine picked Ian up under the pretense of work, but took her to a party with her colleagues at a buffet. Jean felt very uncomfortable and revealed that they had already broken up. She left the party, but Celine followed her and got into her ex's car, supposedly to sign the settlement with the other company. However, Celine had other plans. Ian discovered that Celine had made a deal with the other company. In exchange for reducing the compensation, she would work for them. Celine tried to make Ian feel indebted, believing this would bring them back together. Celine also took Ian's documents to register their marriage. Jean was furious and demanded that he stop, but he didn't. Meanwhile, Juan went looking for her and kept calling. Ian managed to answer, but Celine threw the phone away. The situation worsened, and it ended in a car accident. Juan rushed to the hospital and wanted to confront Celine, but Ian stopped him. Since Celine didn't have a criminal record, he convinced Ian not to press charges. The police asked for her statement, and she mentioned that Juan was her boyfriend. Her father overheard this, became furious, and refused to accept the relationship. Ian understood her father's behavior and decided to let things calm down. Because of this, Juan took her into his home, and they officially began living together. Mrs. Lon supported the relationship and devised a plan to get Ian's father to approve as well. Elsewhere, a boy was abandoned by his mother. He wanted Jiran to forgive his father so they could be together again. Jiran was moved by the boy's words, but still couldn't forgive Chen. Celine left, which caused the companies to fail to reach an agreement, forcing Ian to face the issue again. Her superior took responsibility, but in the end, she was fired. On the other hand, Juan looked for a way to win over his future father-in-law and asked his friends for advice. He learned to cook like his mother and shared the dishes with his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Jibwa continued streaming, but one day his father caught him in the act. The man was furious when he saw him and threw him out of the house. Mrs. Lon supported him and took him away from the place. However, they later received a call from the hospital. The father was sick, but in reality, he was just pretending. His children were very worried and decided to admit him, as well as perform several tests. Juan followed the doctors, and the next day the man could be discharged. However, the doctor stopped him because he found something unusual in his lungs. The father was scared and thought his end had come. Furthermore, Jibwa felt guilty and decided to sell his sneaker collection to help with the hospital expenses. He stayed by his father-in-law's side and acted like a real son, earning his trust. Moreover, the father's test results showed no problems and Jean was discharged, able to talk to his father. Despite their differences, they didn't abandon their family. She didn't care about the age difference because when she was with Juan, she felt happy. Thanks to him, she found the courage to love herself. Gradually, her father understood Yin's feelings. One problem was already resolved, but she still had to deal with the company's issues. That's why she sought out the director. There, she mentioned a proposal, but the director wasn't interested. Jean saw an opportunity at an exhibition and took the chance to reconnect with the director. Although she still couldn't convince her to cooperate, when she left, Juan appeared and presented a proposal to the director. She was fascinated by the young man but couldn't accept his project because she feared a bigger conflict with Chen's company. Fortunately, Chen decided to give up the intellectual property rights to this project. Thanks to this, the director called Ian to give her a chance. Later, Jean noticed her boyfriend's plans and realized he had helped her. So, she convinced her boss to cooperate with Director Su, and he, trusting her abilities, allowed her to return to the marketing area with the rest of her team. On the other hand, Jibwa is studying for college entrance exams because he decided to stop being a streamer. Shimon knows this wouldn't make him happy, and she tried to convince him to continue in that field, but her efforts were in vain. She didn't give up. She sent him an expensive gift. Suddenly, you hear the father's shouts. Well, it turns out that Shimon sought out the gentleman to show him the boy's talent. The man was happy to see his son famous and wouldn't stop him from continuing down that path. Shimon managed to help him continue doing what he loves most and felt very grateful. Jean stayed at the company, doing overtime. Egon, along with her friends, helped her formulate the proposal for Director Su. During the meeting, Chen received a call from his son. He had to persuade Jiren to tell bedtime stories. Jiren realized that Chen is a good father and asked why he hadn't looked for a mother for his son. But he replied that he preferred to find someone he truly liked. Director Su reviewed Yin's proposal, but she was more interested in dealing directly with Juan. Since she first saw him, she became captivated by him and started searching for more information about his preferences. After a few days, Ian and her team developed advertising for perfumes. On the day of the broadcast, Juan gave him a bottle with a message. The event was successful and they achieved good results. The team was about to leave to have fun, but the director arrived searching for Juan. The director had other intentions and therefore invited him to join her company so that he could work for her. However, the boy rejected the offer. Jean was concerned about that conversation, but she trusts her boyfriend. She gave him her support. Ian made it clear that she was very happy because Juan only had eyes for her. Meanwhile, Ji went out for dinner. She was interested in him, but the boy was only focused on the television. He drank too much and finally managed to kiss her, revealing that it was also his first kiss, but then he fell asleep. She thought that from that moment on, they would be dating. She even changed her style to look more beautiful, but when she went to visit him, he acted as if he didn't remember anything. Xiaoan's heart sank, and she couldn't hold back her tears. After that rejection, Weini and his girlfriend grew closer, and their happiness was visible everywhere. Weini and his team also presented their proposal to the client, but this man gave them many rounds to avoid signing the contract. He overheard a conversation from one of the employees who owed a lot of money, and they were threatening him. The client gave him his card to contact him if he needed help, but his intentions were not as good. Jean was doing very well at work and received the promotion she had been waiting for. She became the new vice president of the company and was on the same level as the vice president. He was jealous because she always did well, and in Eigen they had reasons to celebrate. But before getting to his girlfriend, she received a phone call from her ex-mother-in-law asking to save Celine. It turns out that a tumor was detected and she needed surgery as soon as possible. However, the boy refused to do it. The mother was very upset and told him. She asked Yen for this favor because she didn't know what to do, but WY supported any decision she made. Thanks to this, she went to speak with Celine, and at first, He refused to talk to her. Then we see that Sean decided to focus on her career and leave aside the love she felt for Jbo. He didn't understand her distance, but later he remembered what he did when he was drunk. He sent a message apologizing, but she deleted it. On the other hand, Juan and his team were very happy that they would soon sign a contract, but as expected, the client stole their idea with his company. They developed a game identical to Juan's proposal and, with their lawyers, sought to buy the rights. Chung and the others were upset to learn the true nature of the client and were willing to take him to court. But this would cost a lot of money, and Chen couldn't afford it. He was disappointed, but didn't show his emotions. He went to the store, and when he saw the puppy, he showed his drawings and thought they were still finished. It was then that he tore up his drawings. After a while, he wanted to get them back, but it was too late because someone else had taken them. Jan managed to talk to Celine, and the two remained good friends. He also apologized for everything he had done to her. She would no longer visit him and would have more time to spend with her boyfriend. She was the one who recovered Juan's drawings, because from afar, she saw him looking sad. Jean gave him words of encouragement, and gradually Juan's spirits lifted. He discovered the plagiarism and began criticizing the fact that his daughter was dating someone younger, but then stepped away to bring a card of his liking because he wanted to help his future son-in-law's company, which was going through an economic crisis. Since his employees were like family, he decided to sell the house. The biggest problem he had was that he didn't know where to leave the child, so he asked Jiren to take care of him for a few days. Chung didn't tell her the reasons, but he began to suspect. Meanwhile, Shauna was sick, and Jibbo visited her, bringing medicine. He had already realized what she was feeling. Moments later, he didn't want to let her go. So, while she was in a live broadcast, he confessed his love and stole a kiss from her in front of all the viewers, which marked the beginning of a beautiful relationship. Jiren became the substitute mother for Chen's child, and since she wasn't used to it, she felt sorry about having to cook. The little boy called his father to help them, and Chen showed his culinary skills, which surprised her. Joao and Muzin were tasked with finding evidence of plagiarism. They were doing everything secretly from their boss, but at night Chen appeared with his things to spend the night at the office. When he saw his employees, he had to pretend he was just visiting them. However, they also suspected that something was wrong. To catch the traitor who sold their video game, one installed a camera and let everyone see the evidence to initiate the lawsuit. They secretly entered the office, and that's when they found the traitor. Chen was very disappointed. The employee got what he wanted, since Chen wasn't going to report him. His friends were like family to him, and he apologized to everyone for mismanaging the company. Jean discovered this and couldn't tolerate it. Her boyfriend was having problems, so she spoke with the director to recognize Chen's employees as her new team. The director was convinced, and then she spoke with the team, but the agreement was that everyone would move to another city when they had to go with them, or no one would get the benefit. This put him in a difficult situation because he didn't want to abandon his girlfriend, and at the same time, Ian didn't want to stop him. Shen also didn't know what to do. He chose because his relationship with Jiren was progressing. He decided to invite her to an amusement park with his son. That day, they had a lot of fun. Chun looked for an opportunity to confess, and when he had the courage, she doubted his feelings and ended up rejecting him. Jean was at a bar and called her friend to have a drink together. They were both very sad, and in truth, Jiren realized she wanted to be with Chin, but she thought she wasn't ready yet. Because of this, Ian helped her friend and answered Chen's call. When Jiren saw him, she expressed what she felt. Throughout her life, she had always been alone and feared that Chen would stop loving her. He saw how sad she was and immediately took off the ring he had bought because he didn't want their relationship to be temporary. Ian set up meetings with director Zoe, and when Ian spoke with the director, she was very honest. She wasn't afraid of the distance separating them because she trusted him completely. The director admired her confidence and thought he would be an interesting opponent. He didn't know that their conversation was overheard by Juan, and he was pleased with the radical change in his girlfriend. He loved the confidence she had, and to live up to her, he knew he had to keep growing in his career. So, he agreed to work in another city, but they prepared a manual on long-distance relationships. For a while, they were constantly in touch. They sent messages and made video calls to feel together. When Jin's birthday came, she still wanted to spend it with her boyfriend. Een called Jiran to celebrate, but her friend was pregnant and in the hospital. Because of this, Jin called friends and relatives, but no one was available. Well, it turns out that it was all arranged by Juan. He appeared while she was in a store and took out a cake for her to make a wish. He immediately kissed her surprisingly, and then they passed by a bridal shop. He was curious about what kind of proposal she would like, to which Een replied that she hadn't thought about the details but hoped there wouldn't be too many people. Immediately, he took the ring from the soda can and placed it on Yin's hand, making the promise that he would work hard so that this dream would come true. And that's how this story ends. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe, because only then will I be able to continue with the channel and send you summaries of your favorite dramas every day. See you later!